a human being.
What a man. Um, yeah. Which one should we start out with? You think? We'll start with this year, obviously, but yeah,
Yeah, I'd say Bieber. That's gonna be.
run away
Uh,
with it.
yeah, the question only in that one's gonna be, does he win it unanimously or not?
I don't know how you can possibly not vote for Bieber in this situation. How he is not a, you know, yeah, it's ridiculous. It would be ridiculous to vote against him.
Yeah, Vegas. For the most part, Vegas has him as the favorite so far. I personally, I would be surprised if he didn't win. I'm not sure he would get my vote in that sense. Like, I'm not sure he'd be my pick, but I would be surprised if he didn't win it, just based on strictly who I think will win. I would be surprised if it wasn't him.
Yeah, I mean, I would have absolutely no issue with Trevor Bauer winning. He was dominant without a doubt. It's my same thing with the AL MVP. I wanted Trout to win it just because I'm like, if they played another 100 games, Trout was gonna win it. So and he's already been like robbed, so they should have given that one to Trout. And then the NL Cy Young, I'm like, DeGrom was gonna win it if we finish the season out. So may as well just give him another one. But in terms of the 60 game sample, DeGrom is absolutely. I mean, the man. He has a great argument. He was dominant again. But I mean, Bauer. I mean, you can't definitely can't be upset if he wins it. He's very deserving for sure. Yeah, they were just released. So the AL is Jose Abreu, DJ LeMahieu, and Jose Ramirez. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Go
Scott, you
for
can
it.
go.
No, I think honestly, um, I mean, for starters, I'll say my vote would go to Jose Ramirez, but I think that um, not Francona, who took over for Cleveland when Francona was sick. Who was their
Is it
like
Alomar?
step-in manager? Yeah,
Chandy Alomar?
I think Alomar is honestly the reason that that Shane Bieber is not a finalist for this for the MVP award. I think I can point to several Tigers games where he was pitching and had like a shutout through 7 with like 110 pitch count and sent him back out there, and the Tigers scored a run or two in the 8th. I mean, his ERA was already ridiculous, and it could have been even more ridiculous if he didn't have an incompetent manager, and that's what I think Alomar is. I think he was horrible at his job this year. So I think, I mean, obviously Bieber gave up the runs at the end of the day, but I truly think that Alomar is the reason that Shane Bieber is not an MVP finalist. I guess that's my take at the end of the day.
Yeah, I do agree with that because for a pitcher to be an MVP finalist, they have to be above and beyond. I mean, like you said, even though it's not like hitters have their own award. I mean, the Hank Aaron Award is the hitter award, but that's not very respected. So the MVP has kind of become the hitter's award. But I mean, either way, a pitcher's playing a sixth of the games a hitter's playing, a fifth of the game a hitter's playing. So it's very hard for them to be as valuable. Bieber was, I think, on his way, but like you said, like you have to be so much better than everybody else, and he was better than all the other pitchers. But those little, a couple runs here and there, and such a small sample size of a season that kind of took away his chances at the award. In terms of the finalists, I do think it should be a 2-man race between LeMahieu and Ramirez. I think the player and the best hitter was LeMahieu, so I think that. I would have I think that LeMahieu's rate of WAR was about equal with Ramirez, but he played I think 10 or 11 less games, so he wasn't able to make up any ground there. So I know Ramirez was I think the only player in baseball with over 3 WAR. So I would have absolutely no issue with Ramirez taking it. I think it should be LeMahieu or Ramirez. I don't think Abreu. I mean, he was fantastic, and stats are crazy this year, but I don't think that he should get the one over either of them.
I agree.
They may be. He may be only AL players. Maybe what I was looking at. There was Soto, which is kind of. I mean, he missed a lot of games, but he was. I mean, he had over 200 weight runs created plus. He was a monster in the games he missed. So I mean, I don't have a huge issue with him because not being there because he missed so many games, but it was already such a small sample size. I think he was good enough. He was so much better than everybody else in those games that I really wouldn't have had an issue with him getting the nod. But I think that. Machado was fantastic, but I think that it's down to Freeman and Betts in this one. Just like in the AL, I think it should be down to LeMahieu and Ramirez.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I think Tatis over Machado is weird. I mean, being there. I mean, not to say that Machado wasn't fantastic, and I don't know. I just think it's interesting when like the guy that literally stands, 20 feet next to him might have been more deserving. I think that's pretty telling. And I don't think Tatis or Machado. I think they, no matter who was the third finalist, they should both get third. But regardless, I think it's interesting to say the least.
So I'm realizing I had the wrong microphone selected for an input until now. So you likely did not hear me until now, but. I am now. You can now hear me. I'm so glad we got that fixed. Okay, so Rookie of the Year finalists in the American League. In the American League, we have
a joke. That's what we have in the American League.
Christian Javier of the Astros, Kyle Lewis of the Mariners, and Luis Robert of the White Sox. I think the general consensus is that Kyle Lewis will take this one. He did slow down a little towards the end, but it seemed like he was really running it away. And now we'll hand it over to Scott.
It seems like Scott has some strong opinions on this. Yeah.
Luis Robert, the media bias to get Luis Robert into a finalist is an absolute joke. For the last 2/3 of the season, he was absolutely horrid. And Willie Castro deserved the spot. It's really as simple as that. You can go peep my Twitter and just see the blatant discrepancy in statistics.
At Bentley Scotty. That's all you need to know.
At Bentley Scotty, you can go look at the absolute joke of media bias that's being played to get Robert in there. The dude was beyond hyped and had a great first 3 weeks, and then the rest of the season was absolute garbage, and somehow is still a finalist. Yeah, I mean, it's,
Was Willie Castro anywhere near him on foot speed, though?
See, there you go.
That is the question when deciding the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, you're right. The Rookie of the Year should only be decided by your size to speed numbers.
Anyway, Rookie of the Year finalists in the National League: Alec Boehm of the Phillies, Jake Cronenworth of the Padres, and Devin Williams of the Brewers. Of the player awards, this one might be the most wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Personally, I like Devin Williams for this award. I think in a season where there's no clear front runner, especially on the position player front, Cronenworth had a hot start, but he slowed down a little bit, and Devin Williams had a pretty great season out of a reliever. I mean, if you don't win on the eye test necessarily, but his changeup that he throws, if you haven't seen it, is amazing, and he got the results accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's up in the open. I don't think anyone can complain about whoever wins this award, but I would agree with you that Williams deserved it. I didn't really. I mean, I think just mainly just because I'm an AL fan and the Yankees only played Eastern teams, so I didn't pay as much attention to the other 4 divisions as much this year. But so I didn't really see anything about Devin Williams until the last 2 weeks of the season when Pitching Ninja just started. I think an article came out about what Pitching Ninja was calling his pitch, which I forget, the Avatar ball or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And I just started looking at his stats.
I think.
Airbender, yeah. And I was like, I mean, he was ridiculously dominant. I mean, he is fully deserving of this award, and I think because it's a short season, it's kind of there's a lot of weird things. So I think the Rookie of the Year award going to a reliever would be kind of a weird thing in another year. But one, he was so good, and two, there wasn't a far and away other candidate for this award that I think that you can't. I would have absolutely no problem with Williams getting this award. In fact, I think he should get it.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think it should be Williams, and while I think it's the closest race of any that we talked about, I would say, I think that Williams should still absolutely win it. Shout out Michigan Wolverine Jake Cronenworth, though.
There you go. Okay, so moving on we'll touch on Manager of the Year real quick, and then we'll jump to 2021. Your AL Manager of the Year finalists this year: Kevin Cash of the Rays, Charlie Montoyo of the Blue Jays, and the recently fired and replaced Rick Renteria of the Chicago White Sox.
And replaced by Tony La Russa.
I think this is pretty clearly Kevin Cash. I think it's got to be.
He should win it close to unanimously.
People will say what they want about the decision in the World Series, but the man took a team that with so many injuries and when you look at the Rays roster, it's not like their offense was anything special, and to take the team to 40+ wins and then a World Series, obviously they weren't considered in the World Series, but yeah, he is fully deserving. Probably the best manager in baseball.
Yeah, certainly up there. And in the National League, your Manager of the Year finalists: Don Mattingly of the Marlins, David Ross of the Cubs, and Jace Tingler of the Padres. This one I think also hasn't gotten a ton of attention. I haven't given it a ton of thought personally. I know you guys are AL fans, so you may not necessarily have strong opinions on this one.
I mean, what Mattingly did with the Marlins is amazing, but at the same time, the whole outbreak.
Yeah, he did kind
it wasn't
of
fully his fault, but he wasn't exactly a leader there.
It wasn't
And
not
I
his
mean,
fault.
yeah. So I feel like that doesn't disqualify him because I guess it is a baseball award, but that is I think a manager affects a game in very few ways, and then having a giant COVID outbreak in your clubhouse is one of the ways you can affect the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really have an opinion. I'd probably Tingler. I think the Padres were great, and they were just expected to be solid. And yeah, I'd probably go Tingler here.
I'd agree. No, I think Tingler is going to get praise, and I think Tingler deserves praise for what he did with the Padres.
Yeah, I think he'll win the award. It's interesting. This race is just like you said, like the Mattingly thing. It's interesting to put a finalist in there, given the COVID situation, and then also you have Tingler, who didn't stand up for Tatis during the bat flip.
Yeah,
it's very
also
interesting. Some interesting candidates there, but yeah, I think Tingler should and will get the award, just because a lot of times Manager of the Year award, whether we like to admit it or not, is honestly a lot of the time more of just like most improved team award.
Yeah,
for sure.
It often really just goes to the team that got improved the most from last year to this year, and that's easily the Padres. So
yeah, and I will say it's nice that David Ross is in there. I think under the radar, he was quietly a pretty good manager this year. But there was a lot going on with the Cubs that caused struggles outside of David Ross. I mean, you can hardly blame him for 3 of his guys that were supposed to be his best players just not doing anything, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, let's go no justification. Just fire me off your MVPs, Rookie of the Years, Cy Young winners, and Manager of the Years for 2021.
All right, so MVPs, I'm gonna go Trout because Trout. Trout. NL, I mean, it's just up Betts, I guess. Then Wander Franco. I'm not a great prospect guy, so I don't really know the NL. Then rookie. No, I did rookie of the year. Cy Young. Biased, but Cole and DeGrom. I know it's kind of right up, right down the middle, but still. Oh, did I forget Manager of the Year?
Manager of the Year, yeah.
All right, Manager of the Year. I think the Blue Jays are going to be very good next year. So is that Charlie Montoyo?
Yes, Charlie Montoyo.
So Montoyo and my God, what's the Mets manager's name?
Luis Rojas. Yeah,
and Luis Rojas.
So Cop has faith in the Mets for next year. You heard it here first.
A lot of faith in the Mets. Steve Cohen, baby.
Scott?
For MVP, I'm never not going to pick Trout for AL. NL. Sure, I'll go Mookie. That's fine. Cy Young, again, like it's hard to not just pick DeGrom every year until proven otherwise, which is like not fun, but like, AL Cy Young is interesting. I don't know, honestly. Who'd you pick for AL Cy Young, Cal?
Garrett Cole.
Okay, well, that's not happening. What if I just said Bauer and hope he signs with an AL team?
Sure.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't. For whatever reason in my head, I don't have like a clear front runner for AL Cy Young.
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the best
AL
pitchers
Rookie
of
of
the
the Year.
AL in recent years are not going to be, at least not active for a full season next year.
For sure.
Yes, Sale and Severino both still recovering from Tommy John.
Yep.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander.
Verlander too. Yeah.
AL Rookie of the Year, obviously Casey Mize. Not even a question. Cop, you're wrong. NL Rookie of the Year. Is Sixto technically rookie eligible still next year?
It's a good question. I don't know.
I think it depends on how they decide. I don't know if they already made a decision on it, but obviously, I mean, he'll do 39 innings this year, but which in a normal year would still make him rookie eligible. But I don't know what they decided with the pro.
Well, they came to the decision mid-season because the Tigers waited till after to call Mize and Skubal up. So they definitely made a decision. I just don't know.
Sixto's rookie status is still intact through 2021.
Okay. So I'm going to pick Sixto then. Part of me wanted to go Mackenzie Gore, but I'm going to go with Sixto just because that, like, Mackenzie Gore could be incredible or could have, like, you know, rookie lumps, whereas Sixto is kind of proven, like, he's going to be legit no matter what.
As long as he can handle facing teams second and third, I mean, multiple times in a season. His last couple of starts, he got blown up because he faced the Nationals and the Mets again.
I think that just happens to a lot of rookies.
Yeah,
just
also true.
Second time they see you, they got film on you.
And if your stuff is that good, you don't in the minor leagues, you don't have to worry about having too many ways to get guys out.
Exactly.
Very true. Very true. And then what do I have left? Manager of the year. Well, AJ Hinch, obviously. NL Manager of the Year. I guess I'll go Rojas. I don't know. I don't have a big one for NL Manager just because like I feel like the NL is so top heavy. Like unless the Dodgers or Braves win like 115 games, like neither of those guys are winning Manager of the Year. So yeah, I like that Mets pick. You kind of have to pick somebody that wasn't great this year that could break out next year. So I don't mind that.
Yeah, and I think the Mets are probably the easiest team to pick in that regard. I don't see any team in the NL Central really coming out super strong next year.
Yeah, the second you say Central,
and the NL West is still just going to be Dodgers Padres. Okay,
correct.
So AL MVP again. I can't pick against Trout. I am going to ask after this to start thinking who's going to be the guy next year that we ask is he better than Trout? Because every year there's a guy. Since we're all picking Trout, NL MVP. I'm going to say Juan Soto. I don't know if he necessarily will have the defense to put it together, but if he plays even close to a full season, I mean, he was ridiculous this year.
If he plays like net zero defense, he's going to be in consideration.
Maybe,
like he just has to not be a complete liability out there.
Maybe a big ask still from Juan Soto,
right?
But,
for sure.
Rookie of the Year, NL Rookie of the Year. I'm going to keep Ryan Hayes. He also raked in like he was like one of the two most valuable NL rookies this season in like 20 games. He may have a little bit of an adjustment, but good prospect, raked this year. He's going to rake again next year. AL Rookie of the Year.
Don't screw this up, Rudy.
Scott wants me to say Casey Mize.
I'm just trying to save you from looking dumb a year from now when we look at this again. I'm looking out for you, Rudy.
If Brady Singer was also starting to put it together quite a bit towards the end of the year.
Scott, what if he says Isaac Paredes?
Isaac Paredes?
Isaac Paredes. That's just not.
Yeah, he's not quite Rookie of the Year challenger. Yeah, I'll say Casey Mize. I don't hate the pick.
Job.
I think betting on if there's a way to bet on that a pitcher from the AL Central will win Rookie of the Year next season, that's a fair pick. Because the Tigers have great arms, Royals have great arms, and the Indians always manage to find someone that just.
We're gonna just in the AL. I mean, we'll have Singer, Mize, Skubal, Gore,
Bubic, maybe Daniel
Gore,
Lynch,
McKenzie,
Tristan McKenzie.
Yeah, Tristan McKenzie. Yeah, that McKenzie. Yeah. Lynch. Yeah, I mean, just in the AL Central alone, we're gonna have a ridiculous amount of young arms. Yeah.
Let's see, Cy Young winners.
Casey Mize would be acceptable here too.
National League, I would love to see Darvish contend for another one. I mean, I don't see any reason that he'll have a fall off from year to year, and all of his peripherals looked really good. He maybe had the best peripherals of any starter in the NL. He pitched close to the most innings in the National League and had some of the best peripherals of any pitcher. So I like him as a pick to at least be up there in Cy Young voting once again next year. He'll be 34 or 35, so it might be one of the last years, but I think he's still got it in him. And AL Cy Young, neither of you said Bieber, so I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit and say Bieber again.
Respect. I can't knock that.
AL Manager of the Year, I think the Angels are going to be a lot better next year, and Joe Maddon's going to get a lot of love for it. And NL Manager of the Year, I mean, I've got to say either Luis Rojas, or if an NL Central team comes out and does better than we're expecting, I think it could be any of Mike Schilt, David Ross, or Craig Counsell. And Counsell is legitimately an excellent manager, so could be one of those guys too.
Respect.
Like to pick.
Anyway, so yeah, there's your first half of the podcast tonight on awards. Solid topic. So we will now move on. So question 2. What teams over the course of the next decade from 2021 to 2030, if any, win multiple World Series in that 10-year span?
Dodgers, I do think will, because they have such a great young core.
So you think the Dodgers will win 2 more?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think they're going to put out one of the best, because the playoffs are such a crapshoot that predicting anybody to win 2 World Series in a decade in itself is just kind of tough.
Yeah.
But who I think will be consistently putting out elite baseball teams over the next decade, I do think the Dodgers will. I think the Yankees will. Honestly, I think the Tigers will.
Oh my God!
Wait.
There's gonna be 3 World Series winners in the next decade. It's just gonna be monopolized by 3 teams.
No. I was saying teams who could possibly win multiple World Series. I think these are teams who will be one of the best teams in the league over the next decade. And I also think that the Mets will be there, because I think Steve Cohen's going to spend an ungodly amount of money, and they're just going to get any free agent they want.
Fair enough.
I respect that. Yeah, I mean, like it's really hard to not pick the Dodgers.
I think your best bet here, honestly, you just have to pick a team that you know is going to make the playoffs all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I mean, Dodgers, Braves will be in that mix. They're still so young. Yeah. As much as it pains me to say, the White Sox might be in that picture.
White Sox maybe. If
I mean, they will have La Russe.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. I mean, I would love it if the Tigers were in that picture, but I think there's a legitimate argument that we aren't even contending for a World Series again until halfway through this decade already. So I'm not sure.
That's true.
Timing-wise, I think maybe that might be pushing it.
Well, and it's also easy to forget how long a decade is. I mean, in 2010, would we really have been pegging the Cubs as a team that would have been, they didn't win multiple World Series, but they made the NLCS 3 years in a row.
For sure. Yeah. A very small part of me wants to say The Mariners might be a long shot.
I don't hate the Mariners here at all.
But that being said, like it's the Mariners.
Yeah.
Also they haven't made the postseason in our lives. You know what I mean? But I think they have the foundation to be really up there.
Yeah, well, and I think the question really comes down to what teams will be built well enough, not only to make the postseason multiple times, but to be towards the top multiple times. I mean, we also saw several World Series contenders this decade fall apart immediately. The Red Sox fell apart pretty quickly after they won in 2018, even with a lot of the same great players. They fell apart pretty quickly year to year. The Royals after 2015 fell off a cliff. And, part of that Royals team certainly was just luck to get there to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was all luck, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I also think that you have a team like the Astros where they don't, it's like you win these World Series with a young core, and then that young core has to get paid. So that's why I think the Dodgers can maintain it, because they don't really care about how much money they spend. That's why I think the Yankees can maintain theirs, because they don't care how much money they spend unless he gets cheap again. But a team like the Astros that was notoriously before this era a low payroll squad, I don't know how much money they spend to bring back this core of Altuve, Correa, Springer, and Brantley and Bregman. I wouldn't say Brantley's part of that, but
yeah.
So I think that core could get broken up pretty soon. I would be shocked if in 2024, I mean, anything can happen. I really have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'd be kind of surprised if in 2024, if the Astros are still one of the big contenders.
I would agree, and I mean, it seems like, I think people underrate Springer as a free agent in this market, and it certainly seems like he very well will be gone now, before that's even said and done. And they don't, they brought up a lot of good pitching rookies, but it doesn't seem like they have the pitching to turn around and keep contending into several early years of this decade. I mean, they're one of several teams that probably needs a little bit of a retool if they seriously want to be back on the top.
For sure. Agreed.
Yeah, so, Dodgers are an easy pick. I mean, I think the Yankees are built pretty well to be up there. It depends, I think, for a lot of teams on how well they do their rebuild. I think a team like the Giants, it looked like they were going to be in for a pretty long rebuild, and all of a sudden they were a game out of the postseason this year. So I think that might spark them into prioritizing the short term a little bit more than maybe they should. And I don't know if they'll be able to get over the hump more than once. Yeah, Marlins too. I don't necessarily have faith that those teams will be the perennial contenders of the Dodgers, Cubs, Astros, teams that came out of a total full tank it rebuild this decade. I do think, the Tigers rebuild is definitely looking good. The Pirates certainly will have quite a bit of talent. I think it's funny to say this, but I think the Orioles are a team that, just because they were maybe sort of kind of there for a playoff spot this year, and I feel like they don't get a ton of attention all around, the Orioles might be a team that is forgotten about a little in this discussion. Obviously they poached some executives off of the Astros front office that's notorious for now so many things. And, it's hard not to have faith in the guys that are running the show up there, that they might put together just some really, really good teams.
For sure.
Very good top end of that farm system, too. I mean, Rutschman looks like the real deal, and that's obviously a great pickup. They got some arms down there, which is something they've always struggled with. So, between the front office overhaul and the prospects they already have there, and the fact that they'll probably, whether you want to admit it or not, probably another at least 2 years of top end draft picks on top of that as well. That's definitely a a good pick. I don't mind that. Evan says the Mets are winning the World Series 8 of the next 10 years. So
that actually,
I mean, it's possible. You never know.
It is within the realm of possibility. Cannot count it out yet. So that actually has led me to another question, which is 10 years from now, which teams will not have made the World Series in the 2020s?
Ooh.
Wow. So which
2030
don't make a single World Series in the next 10 years? The Royals and the Cubs.
It's possible. I'm not gonna say.
No, the Royals. I really like what the Royals are doing, but on a serious note, the Cubs might actually be a decent answer.
I think the Cubs are a very good answer to this question, especially if they're not seriously in contention next year. Because after next year, they lose out on a lot of the guys that are currently on the roster. Like I was saying, they have Yu Darvish under contract for 3 more years. Next year might be the best of the rest for that deal. And yeah, already the pitching situation looks really sketchy. And, the Cubs spent a first-round pick on a pitcher in 2019 who's not looking like a, first-round dominant pitcher necessarily so far. There's a lot of things that are up in the air with the Cubs right now. It's also very likely that they'll have a, change in the guard after Theo's contract expires after 2021. So yeah, that's probably a very solid answer to that question.
I honestly, I think their best chance would be one of either this year or next year, but I think Houston could.
I think
Houston is on the verge of having to go into a rebuild because like they are almost in the same situation almost as like Boston was a couple years ago, except I do think now that Boston's reset the luxury tax, who needs Mookie Betts? I do think that Boston can go, these giant payroll teams. All these owners can if they want, but they just don't.
Yeah,
can go and retool their entire team through free agency if there's a good free agent class that comes up. So I think that it just is easier to rebuild your team through free agencies than through farm system because prospects are. Even the guys who are for sure sometimes don't pan out. It's more rare, but prospects are, they're harder to project. But versus going out and signing a Garrett Cole or a JD Martinez for Boston a couple years ago. Like, I think that those teams that I don't see Houston doing that. So I do because I just don't think they want to spend the money. So I think that they may go into a full rebuild over in a couple of years. I think that they're going to lose Springer this year, but I think that they'll still go for it next year and probably the year after. But if they don't win, win the World Series is a very hard thing. And then if they aren't able to do it in the next couple of years, I think that they may blow it all up.
Yeah. The thing I struggle with this question is it's so hard to guess which direction a lot of the middling teams will go by the end of the decade. I want to say the Texas Rangers, honestly.
The Rockies, I
was
going
to
say the Rockies, yeah.
Too. Rangers and Rockies kind
of stuck in that middle purgatory.
And they're also just not that well run.
Not very
team.
well run.
So they're not teams that are going to say we're going to blow it all up and we'll rebuild and then we'll start competing in 2025. Like they're kind of teams that seem like they're going to go 80 and 82 over the next decade.
Exactly.
How do we
kind of Detroit success?
How do we feel about? So I was going to say the Brewers, which I think is a fair answer because they have Christian Yelich, but they don't have much else. It looks like on the horizon. The other team that I want to ask about is how do we feel about the Reds as an answer to this question? Do we think that they actually have enough talent, enough promise on the horizon to make a World Series in the near future?
I think the timing of the Reds is actually into their favor. I think once they start getting The Votto contract will come off the books kind of around when this wave of young talent that everyone's been talking about for the Reds for a little bit comes up. So I think that kind of works into their favor. They'll have their budget will open back up right around when the players in the minors start having relatively established success, hopefully, if everything goes well at the major league level.
Yeah.
But that being said, I feel like it is the Reds are not a big free agent market,
No.
so they're going to need a lot of those prospects to pan out, and then if they do pan out, does the extra money they have, when these big contracts come off the book, go to the prospects just to make sure they lock them down, or do they spend more money in free agency? I don't know. That'll be interesting. I think the Reds are a decent answer to that, but to be fair to them, I also think that their situation, their timing of their situation is actually into their favor.
Yes, I also think the Reds have one of the best in terms of pitching personnel. The Reds are probably as good as about any team. I mean, they have Kyle Bodie, who founded Driveline Baseball, and is a pretty, I mean, if nothing else, a big name, but certainly has already done a lot to help them develop some strong pitching. So there's not necessarily a reason to believe that him, or at least his philosophies, won't have a pretty major impact on how well they pitch for quite some time now. Yeah, so
I agree.
So I don't know. It's evaluating the landscape over the course of a decade is interesting.
Yeah, we're talking about 2030.
That's so far in the future. Like that's half of my. That's more than half of how long I've been alive. Like,
very reasonable.
Significantly more for me.
That's interesting. Okay, so we got our next question, which will probably be our last for tonight. We had more questions on Twitter that we will probably bring back in the coming weeks, and of course, anyone's always welcome to throw any good questions they have in chat, and we'd love to answer them. So our last question for tonight is way too big. Which active major or minor league players, any players currently under the age of 25, are future Hall of Famers?
Jasson Dominguez, obviously. I mean, that's the easy pick.
He's 34, though.
Yeah, maybe 34. All right, under 25.
Under 25. Juan Soto.
Yeah, I was gonna say Soto. I think Soto's a good pick.
Absolutely.
Soto seems just on that track that almost seems like there's nothing good. His hitting.
Yeah, his hitting and
he's
more so his hitting skill set is so conducive to long-term success.
Yeah, his high walk rate.
Yeah,
and he does have it. I mean that again, that's so tough to project. But
I think it's hard to imagine Acuna not ultimately getting to the career numbers that make him a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, when these guys come up so young, a guy comes up at 20, 21, they're gonna have 19 for Soto. Like they're gonna play for like 20 years. So it's so. I mean, maybe the Hall of Fame landscape will be different in 2040. Yeah. But it's gonna be it's gonna be. They're gonna hit those little landmarks because they're gonna be able. I mean, and Soto, I think will. I mean, you never know what's happened, but Soto, I think will have the stats, but. There's gonna be a lot of compilers when you come up that young. Like I think a guy like Gleyber Torres. I don't think Gleyber has. I mean, I think he's gonna improve a lot, especially with his walk rate. But right now, I wouldn't say he's a for sure. But he's gonna play for like 20 years. He came up at 21. That he's gonna compile the stats that will probably get him to like 500 plus home runs at least.
Yeah, like within the last 2 years, we were talking about whether it's possible that Starlin Castro gets to 3,000 career hits. Like, it's easy to forget how long you have to just compile those kind of stats when you come up so young.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the Tigers prospects, obviously.
Every single one, without a doubt.
It will actually be unprecedented.
Yeah, it's going to be the crazy, like, 5 Hall of Fame starting rotation, and then Torque, obviously. So,
minimum
all
over
of
under
them.
6.5 Hall of Famers from the current crop of Tigers prospects.
Over for sure.
25,
over.
probably.
25.
The entire 2024 Detroit Tigers will be Hall of Famers.
Yeah, that to put it lightly. Yeah.
You got to respect it.
I think. I don't know. I mean, Soto. It sounds weird to say this about a guy that's so young, but like, I think it is so insane how I truly don't see how Soto doesn't become a Hall of Famer.
So maybe that's an interesting question.
Tatis too.
Tatis is also a really good one. Eloy
after Mike Trout.
White Sox.
After Mike Trout, is Juan Soto. So of all the position players that are not either that are like take out the guys that are already have it locked in, like your Albert Pujols that are at the end of their career, already have a Hall of Fame career. Other than Mike Trout, is Juan Soto the most surefire position player Hall of Famer?
I would probably say Bryce Harper, honestly.
Sure.
Just because he's already been playing for he's
another one of those guys.
He's compile. He came up at 19
forever,
and he's been. People hate on him, but he has been consistently great. Obviously, he had I think it was 2015 where he had just a different level of season, but
yeah,
he has been. I think he's been consistent enough that he'll definitely be a Hall of Famer.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Harper wasn't a Hall of Famer.
Shane Bieber's only 25.
Stanton maybe too. I think Stanton probably is gonna
Mookie.
So many.
Mookie. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah.
But Soto, I mean, the only thing with Soto is I think that guys like Stanton, Harper, Mookie, they've played enough where one, we're certain they're gonna continue what they've done, and that they already have a great repertoire. They already have a great past behind them that they don't have to be as good as they were at their best for the next 10 years to be in the Hall of Fame. They just have to be they have to stay consistent, but they don't have to be as good as 2015 Bryce was. But a guy like Soto, he's still only 20. He's put together, I mean, a 1.5 great seasons. I mean, he's been unbelievable for sure. But I just think that in the end, this happens for all those guys. Anything can happen, injuries and just, basically the only thing that will stop Soto is probably injuries, which is a concern for him. But
yeah,
I think Soto is as surefire as a Hall of Famer can get when you're projecting a guy that has played 2 years. But I think, he hasn't shown anything of any signs of that he's going to regress, but you never know.
Yeah, so here's an interesting tangent that I kind of drew from this question.
Randy Arozarena, by the way.
Yes, Randy Arozarena for sure. Already, I'm at my sources. My sources actually tell me that he's already a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, they might do that thing that the NBA did to Brian Scalabrine though, and not let him in because he's so much better.
Yeah, because it would be really expensive of Cooperstown to have to create an entire
wing
hall just
for Randy.
And they don't spend that money.
Yeah. So how do we feel about Vlad Jr. at this point?
Oof. I mean, you mean for this question or just in general?
Is he on a Hall of Fame?
I think Vlad Jr. is going to be absolutely amazing, without a doubt. It's definitely tough to project a guy who he struggled his first.
Yeah.
This was in the league, right?
Say it again.
This was technically his first full season, but
he played 123 games last year.
It just
yeah.
So it's hard. When he came up, we were thinking future Hall of Famer, blah blah blah.
Surefire.
I don't think
he's got to be one of the most surefire prospects in recent memory.
Yeah, and he's
batted 400.
Yeah, he was Trout level when he came up. obviously he hasn't not panned out. The kid's still 19, 20.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I mean, he could end up in the Hall of Fame. The problem is, I think his bat is going to be great, but it hasn't shown the surefire greatness of Soto's, and his glove isn't fantastic. So it's not like he has that fallback option.
That was that was a compliment to his defense.
That was a compliment. That was. It's not like he has that fallback option that some other guys may have with the if their bat doesn't turn out, they still have their glove like Miguel Andujar has, like someone who can always fall back on the mitt.
Man,
I'm not sure about
the thing with Vlad that's interesting, and this goes exactly the alley I think you're headed, Cop, but like, I mean, it's very, given his, we'll say, body type, it is very hard to see him playing third like into his 30s. Like, I think he's going to get moved to first like relatively soon.
Yeah.
So I think that's and if this is a big if, because we all know the Hall of Fame's voting. But if the Hall of Fame was to become slightly more analytically inclined, obviously the move from third to first would drastically hurt his WAR and stuff like that. So it could get that one I think is a lot more interesting. I don't know if sample size for sure. He could he could definitely get better. Absolutely, probably will get a lot better. But that if you say right now, today, that you think Vlad will be a Hall of Famer, that is not based on anything he's done. That's purely a projection, and that's different with Soto, because with Soto we can say it's a projection, and if he just does what he's already been doing for the next 15 plus years, he will absolutely get there. Vlad has yet to show that, so that would be purely a gut kind of instinct thing.
Vlad's played Vlad's played 183 games in the big leagues, and he's been good. His weighted runs created plus is 108, but he's been a negative defender, and his on base is 336 for his career, which is not it's not bad. It's nowhere near bad. It's about average, but it's not superstar level. The power's there. He's gonna have the power, so I think he's gonna need to get his eye. That's the biggest thing with Vlad. It's just and that's what I think a lot of people thought he already had coming up to the big leagues, and it just hasn't worked out as much. That he's going to need to be improve on the play discipline.
Honestly, I will say I like his peripherals. I don't think it's fair to expect a much better plate discipline profile from him than we've already seen. I mean, in the minor leagues, you saw the highest walk rates he posted.
Yeah. In
any level above A ball, the highest walk rates he posted were in AAA. And I think it's probably fair to say that was a little bit of, even as he was hitting a 170, 180 WRC plus, that's probably also a little bit of just adjusting to AAA. I mean, it's hard to expect a guy who, in a sense, I think his profile was just too good to be true. Like, it's hard to expect a guy who bats 330 to also strike out, to also have that kind of power and that kind of walk to strikeout ratio. Like, I think he was expected to do too many things as a hitter,
for sure.
Almost. And so I think he's got to just settle in a little bit. But the thing that I'm noticing that I is probably most promising is an increase of 3 miles per hour in his average exit velocity from 2019 to 2020. And obviously 2020, not a full season sample size, but the fact that the power's still there, I don't know for sure, but he could also have a launch angle issue. That is part of his deal, but there's no question the power is there. Clearly, he's not going to be the average hitter that he was in the minors, so I think he just has to accept who he is as a hitter a little bit more, and he'll slowly start to have quite a bit more success.
I agree. The sky's the limit for him still.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's
21.
Yeah, you can absolutely. I mean, there's nothing that says that he won't turn into exactly what everybody thought he would turn into. It's just, like I said, it's just the difference between him and Soto. Is Soto we've seen in you can base Soto based on what you've seen. You can't do that with Vlad yet. And that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, most guys aren't Soto when they come up. Most guys, it's a learning curve to the MLB, and it takes years for a lot of guys. It's not just like it takes a couple months. Like, some guys will be okay hitters for a couple of years, and then they'll just hit something and they'll progress. Guys progress as you gain experience. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to count out Vlad, but for this question specifically, I think it would definitely be premature to call him a surefire Hall of Famer, like Scott said.
No, for sure. All right. Well, we've got like a minute until 9 p.m. I don't know if we have any other guys who we want to throw in for this question real quickly. But
Spencer
Torkelson. There you go. Bobby Witt Jr.
No, wrong.
So anyway,
0 for 30 in a series against the Tigers in 2024, by the
way. Before we head out, one last reminder to use our Fanatics link if you're going to be shopping at Fanatics. Do us a favor, help us out. It means a whole lot to us. We really appreciate those of you who have tuned in, who've joined us. We hope you do continue to join us in the future. So that will do it for us tonight. We look forward to hanging out with you guys, answering your questions in the future. Please be sure to bring us more. We're happy to answer them, and to the best of our ability, tell you what we're thinking.
Tell you the facts.
Tell
you the correct answers to all your questions.
Lay down the facts. Lay it down as it is.
The one correct opinion to your questions.
Yes. Evan also says Andujar is a Hall of Famer. That's what we'll go out on.
There you go.
Very true.
Is a Hall of Famer.
Undeniable, baby.
He's going to have a career negative 37 defensive WAR, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
It's a bit low, don't you think? Or high.
Have a great night. Have a good week. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. And we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, guys.